Hey guys, I wanted to make this video about sales and how you can communicate more effectively with your prospect. I've compiled some notes over the years, and I'll start out with going through a punch list, a hot list of some of the main factors that can help you. And I'll just go through the list real quick and briefly expand on them throughout the video. So the first one is never get between the prospect and where you want them to go. The second is when under attack, fall back. And next is seeking to understand to get the truth from them. So this has to work for you, number one, and it has to work for all of us as well, including the prospect. So also the problem they bring you is never the real problem. Knowing what you're looking for helps you recognize it. Ask the question and just shut up. Let the prospect close themselves. Give up your need to be right and put your ego on the shelf. If I could do, if I could make X amount of money, what happens next? If I could help you make X amount of money, what happens next? Use that phrase instead of, if I could do 45K, would you still sell it today? And next, some success concepts. You want to seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. So you really want to listen to them before pitching them and selling. You want to understand so you can tailor your responses and pitch, and that way you can be more efficient and more effective. You want to be truthful with disarming honesty. If something's working for you in the sale, you want to keep doing it. Literal versus reality. So different shades of the sales material needs to figure out how to say it and apply it to yourself. So different shades of blue. And another concept is ongoing incremental reinforcement. And you want to stay behind your prospect. You never want to be forcing them to do something. You want them to be in front of you. So the next concept, as we already kind of briefly touched on, is you want to have your prospect be in a favorable reaction or in a position. So you never want to get between the prospect and where you want them to go. So when under attack, fall back, and keep in mind you want to seek to understand to get the full truth from them, to see if it makes sense for them and for you. And you don't want to be you don't want to give up on how you ask questions. If they avoid a question, you want to ask it in a different way. You don't want to give up any ground there. So sometimes your prospect might not tell a full truth. They might hide something, not necessarily intentionally, but they don't give the full truth. So you want to really make sure you ask questions sometimes in a different way, and you'll get a different answer sometimes. And the whole kind of outline the selling system for this is you want to always be bonding, building rapport. You want to sound like an expert. You want to sound like you know what you're talking about. And throughout the whole process, you want to get their commitment on things. So you want to make sure they're interested in what you're selling. So you want to make sure, ask questions that get their commitment. And throughout the discovery process, you also want to be looking for indicators of a need, distress. um, Help them discover their pain. And you also want to uncover their money expectations. You don't want to give them an offer that surprises them. You kind of want to set their expectations right. Questions, qualify them. And you want to make sure your questions really uncover their motivation. And so also your questions, they should uncover their decision making process. So you want to make sure you are speaking with the decision maker. And if if there's someone else that's involved with the decision making process, you want to make sure that they're there. You want to schedule an appointment you want to have all decision makers be there for the next appointment, so that you guys can come to an agreement on a sale. So the whole process, including lead generation to sale, that includes generating the lead. They'll call in from marketing. Sometimes this can be from passive marketing, like direct mail, Facebook ads, channels like that. It also can be from proactive leads. So if you're cold calling, or if you're receiving referrals, leads can come in through there. Next step is you want to disqualify them. So you set, and that goes through the discovery process. You want to set the appointment. You want to qualify on the phone. You want to get their price range. Say if you're talking to a seller, you want to make sure that they're the owner on title of the home. You want to get, if we're talking about a seller, you want to get the home characteristics, maybe their reason for selling, the mortgage information. Next, you want to establish, if you go out to the home, you want to schedule an appointment to visit the home. You want to make sure you're always establishing rapport with them. You want to reestablish some of the things you found out on the phone. So you want to reestablish some of their motivation for selling, their timing, the decision process that they go through, and their expectation on price and terms and dates. Next, you want to inspect the house. You want to make sure they're aware of all the expenses and updates that the property may need. Next, you want to give your discount statement. So you want to make sure that they know, what you do, and kind of set the expectations, and maybe give a bracket offer and a price range. So maybe bracket your price. Say, this could cost, or the price I'm willing to pay is, 10 to 20,000, whatever. Next, you want to, make your offer. You want to calculate your offer, present your offer, and close. And then also, after you close, you want to make sure your fulfillment is on point. You want to make sure your fulfillment system is ready to go. Next, you want to, and that's pretty much the decision process right there. So just to go into some of the more, a little bit more detail, some of the steps. Bonding and rapport, you want to make sure you're doing this throughout your communications with the prospect. You want to make sure your communication is really broken up into 3 main categories. which are, body language, tonality, and the spoken word. And the biggest component of communication is body language, which comprises about 55% of, give it about 55% weight. The next is your tonality, so your tone inflections, and things of that nature, and that comes out to about 38%. And your spoken words, what you actually say, the content, is about 7%. So if you're only communicating with the prospect over the phone, then obviously your tonality is going to be a bigger percentage of your communication. And if you're in person, that gets shifted over to your body language. So some of the notes, some of the things to keep in mind, obviously people tend to do, business with people that they like, know, and trust. So if you think or feel something, if you get like some intuition during the sale, during the process, you want to say it, you want to ask it. You want to pay attention to their body language as well, and their tonality, and this can uncover some of their motivations, and you can you might be able to dig deeper into some of their responses to the questions that you've been asking them. Also, you want to pay attention to their type of personality. So there's a bunch of different personality tests that you can use just to kind of get a gauge on what type of personality they have. So if they're really analytical, they're communicative, they value the opinions of others a lot, if they're just kind of like type A, like they're really they just want to make a decision now, they don't want to waste time, things like that. You can kind of tailor your presentation around that a little bit. Also, you want to match their body language and adjust so that you can really they can feel comfortable around you and really open up with you. And establishing a relationship with the seller is highly important because, as mentioned earlier, people who are like one another, they tend to like one another and they feel comfortable with them. And people who like one another, they tend to trust one another. And people tend to do business with people they trust. And as briefly mentioned before, different personality types, some of the communication modalities, different styles are, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So visual people, they're more animated and mobile than most people. Auditory, they tend to work in places where they have a soothing background. And kinesthetic, people measure most of their experience by how they feel internally. And going back to visual, they really relate the world by what they see and are highly affected by colors. They're quick to speak and they have little patience. They also think in pictures, hence visual. They hate to be interrupted. So if you're speaking with someone who you think is visual, and you want to make sure that you really let them express what they're thinking, what they're saying, without interrupting them. Also, they tend to use their hands a great deal. They also recall their feelings in pictures. They speak in short bursts of thought. They also ask for the bottom line and are really results oriented. They also judge people on how they look. So you want to make sure if you're meeting them in person, you want to make sure you're presenting yourself well in a professional style. You don't want to be wearing, baggy jeans. If you're going over to buy, um, to make a presentation about a major high ticket sale. They also use phrases with visual words such as, "Do you see what I mean?" They use visual words like "see" and words like that. So that's kind of how you can tell if you're communicating with a visual person. Now, the auditory person, they have a terrific capacity for handling people and do well in handling and working with others. They're open to both sides of an argument. They converse with themselves and internally at a great deal, often moving their lips unintentionally in the process. Background noise that other people pay little attention to can be a real source of discomfort to auditory people. They are also very dependable if things are explained to them. So if you have some instructions, rather than maybe writing it, if you explain it to them auditorily, then they'll have much greater success in following through with those instructions or understanding them. They also like to actually talk through the issues as well. And they often don't like paperwork, and they appreciate metaphors and comparisons. They use phrases with auditory words like talk to you later. So that's how you can kind of identify an auditory person. And next, kinesthetic. Some more information about kinesthetic people. Externally, kinesthetic people are predisposed to touch and take a hands-on approach to everything. They tend to breathe deeply and slowly when you talk to them. And they speak more slowly and in lower voices than others. And they tend to be better in physical shape than others as well. And mood swings will be a large factor in their behavior patterns. Your chance of closing will depend on how you describe your product or service to them. And to cause a kinesthetic person to react, simply add emotion to whatever it is you are communicating. A kinesthetic person will give you the opportunity to sell them, over and over again. And they use phrases and words that indicate emotion, such as "this feels." So that's really how you can identify and communicate with a kinesthetic individual. And some more predicated phrases and words that these types will use. And also predicates are the process words, verbs, adverbs, and the adjectives people use in their communication to represent their experience internally through the visual, auditory, or kinesthetic modalities. And I'll go through some of these words for each mode. So visual phrases. A list of visual phrases include an eyeful, appears to me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, bird's eye view, catch a glimpse of, clear cut, dim view, eye to eye, flashed on, get a perspective on, in light of, in person, in view of, make sense, make a scene, mental image, mental picture, mind's eye, paint a picture, photographic, plainly see, pretty as a picture, see to it, short-sighted, showing off, sight for sore eyes, staring off into space, take a peek. Visual words include see, look, view, appear, dawn, reveal, envision, illuminate, twinkle, clear, foggy, focused, hazy, sparkling, crystal clear, flash, imagine. Auditory phrases include afterthought, blabbermouth, clear as a bell, clearly expressed, call on, describe in detail, earful, express yourself, give an account of, give me your ear, grant an audience, heard voices, hidden message, hold your tongue, idle talk, inquire to, keynote speaker, loud and clear, manner of speaking, pay attention to, power of speech, purrs like a kitten, outspoken, rings a bell, state your purpose, to tell the truth, tongue-tied, tuned in, tune out, unheard of. And next, auditory words. So these include hear, listen, sounds, make music, harmonize, tune in, tune out, be all ears, rings a bell, silence, be heard, resonate, deaf, attune, overtones, unhearing, question, and some kinesthetic and phrases include all washed up, boils down to, chip off the old block, come to grips with, control yourself, cool, calm, collected, firm foundations, floating on thin air, get a handle on, get a load of this, get in touch with, get the drift of, hand in hand, hang in there, heated argument, hold it, hold on, keep your shirt on, know how, lay cards on the table, lightheaded, moment of panic, not following you, pain in the neck, pull some strings, sharp as a tack, slipped my mind, smooth operator, and so-so. Kinesthetic phrases include feel, touch, grasp, get a hold of, slip through, catch on, tap into, make contact, throw out, turn around, hard, unfeeling, concrete, scrape, get a handle, solid, suffer. So those are the different phrases and words of three different modalities. So next, you want to identify their personality style, and you really want to understand your personality type as well, so you can understand your strengths and weaknesses and really adapt to whatever situation that you're in, whoever you're communicating with as well. And the next reason you want to understand different personality types is so you can communicate with them either in person if you're on the phone with them, or even in your marketing materials as well. And also even through contract negotiations, through fulfillment, and also helps with follow-up referrals and things of that nature as well. So how to identify these different personality types? So a common method is to use a DISC profile. And so the first one is a C style. They're more analytical, they're precise, they're exact, they're logical, systematic. They're usually quiet, on the quieter side, and they don't express emotions. They're careful, formal, and disciplined. They do give detailed information. They answer questions patiently. They give time to think and decide. So when you're interacting with them, you don't want to keep information to yourself. You want to lay out the details to them. If they feel like you're hiding something from them, then they're not going to trust you as much. Next, you don't want to pressure them for immediate decisions, and you don't want to be too chatty with them either. So the next personality style is the D style. They're decisive, tough, and impatient. They're very strong-willed and competitive. They're demanding, independent, and direct. And they typically don't listen. When you're interacting with them, you do want to give immediate feedback to them. You want to concentrate on the subject at hand. You don't want to go drifting around in different loops and circles. You want to stay on point. And you want to maintain a results-oriented approach with them as well. You don't want to frustrate him or her and their desire to take action. You want to be mindful that they are results-oriented and they want to make a decision quickly. You don't want to restrict his or her power, and you don't want to spend time on the non-essentials with them as well. So the next personality style is an S style. They're more calm, steady, and laid back. They're caring, patient, and amiable. They listen carefully and sincerely as well. They're modest, indecisive, but they are also trustworthy. When you're interacting with them, you do want to slow down and take your time. You want to provide assurances and support. You want to give time to decide. You don't want to be restless, pressure for action. You don't want to make sudden changes with them. And you don't want to fail to deliver on the promises that you've said to them. The next personality style is the I style. They're sociable, talkative, and they're open. They're very enthusiastic and energetic. They're persuasive, spontaneous, and impulsive. They're emotional, and they like to talk more than they listen. When you're interacting with them, you do want to show enthusiasm. You want to smile, chat, focus on the positive, make it fun, and let him or her talk. You don't want to put down his or her enthusiasm as well. You don't want to focus on the details with them, and you don't want to react negatively. You want to remain positive with them. And how to communicate with these different personality types. With the C style, Remember, they're more precise and analytical. You want to use data and facts with them. You want to examine an argument from all sides with them. You want to keep on task. You don't want to socialize. You want to disagree. You want to disagree with the facts, not the person. And focus on quality with them. Avoid new solutions. Stick to proven, tried and true ideas. And you don't want to touch them or be too physical with you don't want to touch with them, hug them, things like that. And allow time for them to think as well. So the next style is the D style. Remember, they're the more decisive ones, tough and impatient. You want to be direct, brief, and to the point with them. You want to focus on the task at hand and stick to strictly business. You want to use a results-oriented approach with them. You want to identify opportunities and challenges and provide win-win situations for them. You want to use a logical approach. Touch on high points. Don't overuse the data, and don't touch. You want to keep your distance with them as well. The next personality style is the S style. So they're the more calm, laid back. They're more careful and patient and amiable. You want to be patient with them. You want to draw his or her opinions out and provide a logical approach to the facts. You want to relax and allow time for discussion with this personality type. And you want to show how the solutions will ultimately benefit them. You want to clearly define all areas and involve him or her in the planning process. The next style is the I style. They're the more sociable, talkative, open personality types. You want to allow time for socialization with them. You want to lighten up and have fun with them as well. You want to ask for feelings and opinions. Use touch, your forearm and back. You want to create a friendly, non-threatening environment. And involve this personality type, the I, in brainstorming new ideas and expect quick decisions with them. You want to provide opportunities for recognition and reward with them as well. So next, we'll briefly touch on mirroring and matching your prospect. You want to kind of match their pace and their body language and mirror kind of the way that they communicate. This kind of goes back to bonding and rapport. If they feel comfortable with you, it's going to allow them to open up and feel comfortable with you as well and trust you more. And this ultimately, really helps you and them out in the process. So some more on bonding rapport. Only the prospect can become emotionally involved in a selling situation. You yourself, as a professional, never want to become emotionally involved in a sales call, especially a cold call. And people buy emotionally. That really drives them, and they make decisions and justify their decisions intellectually. All these things being equal, people do business with people that they trust. And all things not being equal, people still do business with people that they trust. And throughout the sales process, you want to make sure you're getting the commitment of your prospect um, throughout the prospect. So each time you begin a call with them, you should outline the expectations of both your company and 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 your prospect. So each side has issues, that they're gonna want to talk about, and without outlining the discussion agenda up front, one side could monopolize the conversation. And how many times has the prospect, prospect dominated the meeting and left no time for you to discuss your agenda items? Or even how many times have we all barged in with our agenda and requests without bothering to understand where they're coming from? So you want to have it equal on both sides. And it's also important to agree on a time limit for the call. This assures that you won't be dismissed because the prospect doesn't have the time you expected to spend with them. And each conversation should include an agreement of what comes next. All of these elements combined create a sense of creating expectations and getting their commitment. And you want to have them commit to you and be involved in the process like that. So basically you're moving them down the process slowly but surely. And a successful sales professional, they control the flow of the meeting. So each meeting moves, each commitment moves the process along. So when both the prospect and the sales professional feel that each individual's agenda will be met, you'll become a better listener, and you can focus on the prospect's issues. And really, this helps set the prospect's mind at ease. I mean, it's hard for the prospect to get mad at you when you tell them, what you're going to do ahead of time, what you're going to do throughout this meeting. So next part of the sales process, you want to, before we go into the next process, let's, go into a little bit more details of getting the commitment from the prospect. So there's kind of 5 elements that you need, you want to establish when establishing expectations and getting commitments from the prospect. You want to explain the purpose of the meeting or the call, the reason why you're calling them, why you're speaking with them. And this purpose should move the relationship, the call, the meeting, the process forward. And next is the time. You want to set the amount of time needed for the meeting. So you might ask a question like, do you think we have enough time today? Or are you expecting any interruptions? If so, let me know now, and what we can do is reschedule this where we can both have time. You want to make good use of the time that you're allocating. So you want to ask them, what should we be talking about? What's important to you? What's important to them? And you want to allow enough time to cover all items and agenda subjects. And you really want to find out the prospect's agenda, their role, and expectations as well. You want to find out the property's owner agenda, what their agenda is for the meeting. You want to find out his or her expectations before and during the meeting. You want to understand the property's owner's perception of what will happen between meetings. You want to clarify the property owner's perceptions concerning the next steps. And you want to identify the mission of the organization as well. So the organization's agenda, role, and expectations, you want to explain to the property owner, what you will be doing in the meeting. You want to explain expectations of the prospect, including what information you will need from him as well. And you want to see if it makes sense for both you and the prospect. And during this process, you're there to qualify and possibly disqualify them if it's not the right fit for them as well. So you want to make sure that they're okay with you. You want to make sure that they're comfortable saying no to you, as you're comfortable to them saying no as well. And as far as the outcome should be the decision to proceed with or stop what we just discussed, or stop the process with a new prospect and decide on the next steps with the current property owner. This decision must be mutually beneficial to both parties. You don't want any mutual mystification, no wishy-washy words when it comes to getting their commitment. And when should you be getting, their commitment? You should be getting their commitment on the phone with the prospect prior to the first meeting or prior to the next phone appointment. And anytime you're going to have a meeting with the property owner, you want to get their commitment. And before each meeting starts, you want to get their commitment as well. And also at the end of the meeting, how much time do you need after you create your offer so you can explain it and close as well? You should also get their commitment for what will happen after the offer is accepted as well. And in the sales process, for people looking to buy, you want to get their commitment as well. And remember, upfront, getting their commitment does not mean that you only do it on the first meeting or or a contact you have with the property owner. It means that you do it before any meeting or contact you have with the property owner. And some things that can happen when you don't get the prospect's commitment through this process. If you don't get their commitment, expectations between you and the property owner, between you and the prospect, may conflict, and the sales cycle will be lengthened because they're probably going to be shopping your offer. You might miss an opportunity to disqualify suspects. You may also be forced into a situation of providing free consultation. So say you're dealing with a property owner and they don't really have a house they're hoping to sell. They're just kind of curious. They just kind of want to know what their house is worth. And you could be spending a lot of time providing free consultations, and where you could be focusing your time on helping other property owners that need to sell a house. And you might be outsold as well. some other things that can happen if you don't make a get commitments from prospects is they might demand an offer without you having all the appropriate information. I mean, if you go to a doctor and you just demand medicine or the solution without the doctor asking you questions and finding out all the information, that could do some serious harm. So you want to make sure you get commitments from the prospect as you're asking the questions and qualifying and understanding their situation. And maybe here's an outline of a conversation you could have of getting their commitment. So some phrases are, you want to show appreciation. You want to say, thank you for inviting me in. Thank you for taking this appointment. Next, you want to deal with time. You want to say, maybe I know we agreed to 1 hour together today. Is that amount of time still agreeable to you? And moving on to the client's agenda, naturally, you'll be asking questions about my company, the types of products we work with, and how the process works. What other questions do you have? Next, you want to move on to your agenda. Maybe you might say something like, obviously, I need to have a full understanding of your situation right now and why you want to sell a house and get some information about the house. Is it okay if I ask you some questions? Typically, one of two things will result from our conversation today. Next, we're moving on to possible outcomes. So typically one or two things will result from our conversation today. No fit. Comfortable saying no. We might see that our process at XYZ company, our solutions, do not fit your needs. If that were the case, are you comfortable saying, thanks for coming by, but I don't see a match? But if there is a fit, on the other hand, we may find there is a perfect fit. If that's the case, we make sure I have all of the information necessary to begin, the next steps of the process. Would that be comfortable with you? Would that be okay with you? And you want to validate them committing. You might ask them to also bring something to the next meeting, like if they're selling a house, you might ask them to bring some paperwork on the house. So if they have a mortgage, you might ask them, do you mind can you please locate the mortgage statement, so that way we can just determine the numbers, make sure the numbers are okay. Not only this helps you get more information so you can do your job better, but it also helps get the prospect more involved. The situation gets their commitment, showing interest and getting more investment from them. Next, you want to transition to discovering more about the seller's motivation for, either selling or buying your product. So something, transitioning statement could be something like, John, you mentioned that XYZ is important to you. Tell me a little bit more about that. And this helps them open up a little bit more about their motivation. So next, we'll go ahead and move on to kind of just review the getting the commitment. So getting strong commitments from your prospect really just gives you the opportunity to deal with your biggest fears up front. And strong commitments guarantee there's no interruptions during your sales call. Strong commitments from your prospect require that a decision be made at each intermediate meeting or phone call appointment. There's no mutual mystification. There's no gray areas. There's no wishy-washy words. You also can't get mad at a prospect for doing something you didn't tell him he couldn't do as well. So the next step in the process, as mentioned before, is uncovering their motivation. What's causing them to want to either sell or buy your product, to sell their house or buy your product. There's typically there's going to be a compelling emotional reason to buy a product or sell their house. So people make their decisions or commitments and emotionally and justify them. People make buying decisions or commitments emotionally, and then they justify them intellectually with reason. And as a sales professional, you must have your prospects become emotionally involved in the process, in the sales process. And the easiest and most effective way for them to become emotionally involved and willing to make a purchase or commitment is to have them experience and recognize the situation that they are in. Have them recognize the discomfort that they're in right now. And identifying this discomfort is simply identifying the true desires and needs of the property owner, not from an intellectual standpoint. Not from an intellectual standpoint, but from an emotional standpoint as well. So this discomfort, this pain, is the gap between what people have now and what they want, where they want to go. And this discomfort, the pain, is understanding the compelling emotional reason to do business. What your prospects' compelling emotional reason to do business. Prospects tend to buy emotionally, but they make decisions intellectually. And typically, when you ask a prospect, what their motivation is, or if they bring it up, they're probably, the problem that the prospect brings you is never really the real problem. There's always something deeper. There's like the surface problem, and there's a reason for it, and then the impact that has on their personal lives, on their business. And many prospects are not even aware of their problems. So if you ask them what their motivation is, why they're looking to buy, they might have a surface problem, but they're not aware of how it can impact them, how it's impacting them right now. Maybe they put it off so much that they've kind of disassociated with it, or they're just not aware of the impact it has on them right now, or the impact it could have for them in the future. So, and people, psychologists suggest that people are more likely to take action to avoid pain and loss than they are to gain a pleasure. So the first step is to convert the features and benefits, the pleasurable elements of your product or service, to something more painful. So the problems and negative consequences of not having the features and benefits your product has, or your product or service has. So, prospects really buy for their reasons, not the salesperson's reasons. Not every prospect is qualified to be a customer. If there's no main motivation, there's no discomfort, there's not going to be a sale. It's going to be hard to have a sale. I mean, people truly do buy emotionally, and they only make decisions intellectually, logically. Don't give it to them. Listen to them. Find out their discomfort, their pain, and whoever is getting questioned. So, getting into some of the questions you can ask a seller. The main outline for asking these questions, these discovering questions, to find out, their true discomfort. It starts out with the surface problems. And then there's some questions you can ask about surface problems that you can start out the questioning process. Kind of goes from general. The overall outline is you want to go from general questions to more specific questions that have more impact. So you start out with the general, asking some surface questions. Next, you go to the reasons, and there's some questions you ask about reasons. And next is the impact. There's questions that uncover and help the prospect uncover the impact of not having your service, of their specific problem right now, the impact on their personal life, and how much it's cost them so far, things like that. And we can get into specific questions later as well. So just kind of an overall summary of the motivation. You want to identify surface problems. If there's no discomfort, no pain, there's typically no sale. An existing condition is what the client and what the prospect is trying to move away from. And a desired result is what the prospect is trying to move towards. And surface problems are at the top of the questioning process. The surface problems, the property owner openly shares it with you. Openly shares you their surface problems. they tend these they tend to be more factual and intellectual. They describe symptoms, and but they're often not the real problem. So you want to work towards uncovering the root, the real problem. So next you want to identify the reasons. The reasons explain why the property owner is interested in your product and why he has not already achieved your desired result. And next, you want to get into the details, the personal impacts. Next, are the emotional impacts. And these all have different questions, and we can touch that in another video. I'll go ahead and ending this video now, and we can discuss some more questions of the different questioning process to uncover your prospects' true motivation and their discomfort, and how you can really help them and tailor that into a solution. Find the best product and service that your company offers, and help really tailor a solution that's really going to help them and fulfill their needs. So we can do that on the next few videos. I'll go ahead and end this video here, and hope you guys have a great day.